Traders, how are you? With Marcello, founder of the Day Trading Academy. Today we're doing the recap of what happened in the markets last week. This week we have the Japanese government banning common kids cereals and snacks because they cause cancer, the escalation in the war in Israel, and also very, very good news on the inflation front. Let's go ahead and get started. Biggest news of the week when it comes to the market is the Fed, the central bank in the United States, decided not to raise interest rates for a second consecutive time. So now they're staying at 5.25 to 5.50%. This is leading a lot of investors and analysts now to believe that they might not raise for the rest of 2023. And thanks to that, the entire stock market went up because remember that almost 70% of the economy in the United States is consumer spending. So by increasing the interest rates, it causes the consumer to spend less because everything is a lot more expensive. And that 70% of the economy basically turns off. We also have the housing market, for example, which is about 17 or so percent of the economy. That right there is almost 90. So if people can't buy homes because the interest rates are so high, because they can't afford the monthly payment anymore, there goes almost 90% of the economy. You see how it works? So thanks to that news, and now the idea that maybe they're not going to continue raising and maybe they'll stop raising or continuing to lower rates next year, that caused a lot of hype, let's say, in the markets. The equities are much higher on that news, right? Because of the expectation that they might not continue to raise rates anymore. All the U.S. stocks were up. Canada was also positive. The Communist Republic of Canada. Jeff Bezos is now leaving the Communist Republic of Seattle, Washington for Miami. Looks like good old boy even wants a little bit of freedom down in Florida. The U.S. stocks market rose on Friday as well after there were fewer jobs created. The expectation was 180,000. It came in at 150,000. So that, again, is another kind of red signal to the central bank of the United States, which is going to help the situation of maybe they're not going to continue to raise rates and just keep putting that knife in our hearts, right? Overseas market news, the European markets were mostly higher. Italy was the biggest positive there. Latin American markets were mostly mixed as well. We got the Mexican exchange being the most positive. Africa and the Middle East was mixed. South Africa went up by almost 5%, biggest positive there. And then in the far east, we have the Nikkei in Japan, most positive of all at 3.09%. Bitcoin and other crypto news. The U.S. government arrests safe porn founders on fraud. Remember that this doesn't happen in stocks or futures. It happens just in the crypto space. So high returns, but also high risk. Keep that in mind. PayPal has received approval to offer crypto services in the UK. Thailand's second largest bank, Kasikorn Bank, hopefully I said that properly, acquires a local crypto exchange. You guys are starting to see that the institutions are moving into crypto, right? You guys are noticing? And Thursday, a jury found Sam Bankman-Fried, the previous CEO of the now bankrupt FTX, was at one point the second largest crypto exchange in the world. They had found 7 criminal counts against him, and he's now facing almost 115 years in prison. What I don't understand, though, is because he donated practically 99% of the stolen customer funds to Democrats, why they didn't bail him out. I'm still a little confused by that because, you know, they take care of their own. Bitcoin down 3.2%. Friday evening, it was at 34,676. Commodities, the government of Japan, as I mentioned, is now banning cancer-causing kids cereals and snacks. So we're talking Frosted Flakes, Rice Krispies, Honey Bunches of Oats, and Wheat Thins. So if you're feeding your kids that, stop, because it causes cancer, according to the government of Japan, which I would trust more than the U.S. government when it came to food. Monday, oil slumped to its lowest price since the war began in the Middle East. It's a second consecutive week that we had a continuation of a drop in oil, and theoretically it should go backwards because a major war in the Middle East could cause geopolitical tensions, which could cause oil to go up. But thanks to the fact that it looks like it's not going to escalate outside of that immediate area for now, that means that there's no alarm for that affecting the rest of the world when it comes to oil. Oil went down in the U.S. 6.24% to 80.51, while in international, which is the Brent, went down almost 7% to 84.89. And China is struggling to absorb a growing glut of coal thanks to strong domestic output and also soaring imports. It's going to threaten to overwhelm the coming wave of winter demand. This is one thing I don't understand about this save the world when it comes to the climate, quote unquote, climate crisis. And let me know if there's a warning label that comes up, because supposedly they're going to do that now. But the U.S. and Europe, we can't do carbon. We can't do, we got to save the environment. But India and China, between the two of them, are starting brand new coal power plants at one a week. So it's okay for them to do it, but we can't do it. Outside of the fact that carbon is 0.04% of the environment, and outside of the fact that carbon is plant food. So destroying the environment. I'm all about protecting the environment, but come on now, guys. Gold went down 0.67% to $1,993.20. Silver went up 0.51% to $23.31. Financial and banking news in the United States now, all of the people that make more than $100,000 a year, 51% of those people are supposedly living paycheck to paycheck. If you guys remember last week, I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago, I shared a video where I told you guys about a guy that was sharing the cost of food at Costco, and it actually has gone up just in the last year by 75%. Outside of the, you remember the hamburgers, right? Birthday boots on the air, no? Tell you the story again? World's biggest shipper cuts 10,000 jobs. Warns of subdued global trade. This is a bellwether of what are things to come, because if one of the largest shipping container companies is letting go people because of the bad results that they have, that means that there's a lot less shipments going back and forth, which means that the economy isn't doing that well and is probably going to get worse. Inflation in both Germany and the EU, the Eurozone, went down by quite a bit. The only thing, though, is that now the high interest rates are starting to affect the economy due to the fact that now there's reports that the Eurozone is starting to contract. Citigroup, the third largest U.S. bank, is warning that it's going to let go of UK-based employees. They have 16,000 employees in the UK. And they're going to let go mostly of management rather than lower level employees. And in political news, game over for Ukraine. Quietly now, officials from the US and Europe are nudging Ukraine to seek peace, because now they have a war in Israel to launder money instead of the one in Ukraine. You see how that works? It's no longer let's protect Ukraine. You see how that works, right? House Weaponization Panel agreed to end the IRS's abusive surprise visits thanks to Jim Jordan. And the things in your arm, the juice that you take for the pandemic, has now been found to reduce a major beneficial bacteria or gut biodiversity, according to a research study. And I don't know about you guys, but it kind of seems that the more news comes out about these things, the worse it is for you. Let me know what you think about that, and let me know if I'm seeing that correctly, because there might be some of you that are watching that are pro, the thing in your arm from the pandemic. So let me know. Speaker Mike Johnson announces plan for Biden's impeachment, and the U.S. infant mortality rate rose 3% last year for the first time in 20 years. Major blow to the leftist Petro coalition in Colombia. Colombia being a narco-communist, basically. We all thought Colombia was kind of headed in the way of Venezuela, but thank God they had a little taste of communism, just like Jeff Bezos going back to some freedom. The government elections, the city elections, all the regional elections, they just decimated the Communist Party of Petro, which is the current president in Colombia. China's top spy agency warns of gene weapons able to target ethnicity or race. They were saying that RFK, Robert F. Kennedy, the presidential candidate, was a conspiracy theorist for saying this. Congress is sneaking through a $34,000 pay raise for itself instead of passing it through the law as they normally should, because everybody would then notice what they did. Instead, what they did is they changed a little rule where they gave themselves a $34,000 house and meal subsidy, but they're still getting an extra $34,000. You and I, you get to eat cake. U.S. home prices rose for the fifth straight month in August, but increasing mortgage rates is most likely going to allow that to continue to go down rather than up. And National Association of Realtors found guilty of colluding to keep home sales commissions artificially high. They've been ordered to pay $1.8 billion in damages, and the German economy has officially shrank in quarter three, drowned down by the consumer spending, but the cap investment actually was a positive. The just to kind of give you an idea, most advanced economies, advanced, kind of first world, is the consumer spending is the biggest percentage of the economy. In the US, for example, it's almost 70%. In Germany, it's between 50 to 55, depending on the year. This last year, when I pulled up the numbers, it was actually 51%. Mexican economy expanded for the 8th consecutive time in quarter three, driven by consumption and industrial activity. And now the Communist Republic of Canada has begun to stall, and they're likely going to go into a recession in quarter three. U.S. manufacturing went down sharply. They contracted sharply in October, showing some signs of improvement, but this is likely reflecting on the strikes from the auto unions that finally got to deal with all the auto manufacturers. Corporate news: CVS stores in D.C. resort to putting framed portraits of toilet paper and other products to counter rampant theft. That's what you get when you vote for communists, guys. Enjoy it. Don't come to Florida and Texas and vote for those same communists, even though that's what I know it's what you're doing. Toyota global sales has hit a record. Their output from April to September went up by 8.3% to 5.6 million vehicles. So they are chugging right along. And Tesla is given a green light for the Gigafactory in Mexico, gets all its permits, but they put a pause on the project due to the fact that they're worried about the global economy. Bud Light signs new multi-year agreement with UFC to try to save their brand. So now UFC is gay. And JetBlue quarter three results below analyst expectations. Their shares fell over 10%, and now they have a trial to defend its acquisition of Spirit Airlines. Starbucks, they exploded almost 10% due to the fact that they had much better results in their quarterly earnings. They plan to add about 17,000 locations and 35,000 outside of North America by 2030, and they also want to cut costs by $3 billion. And they want to have a total of 55,000 locations globally by 2030. Tesla fell almost 5% on the news that they are looking to, the battery supplier Panasonic that provides the batteries for them is looking to drop their annual profit forecast by 15%. So if the company that they mainly get their batteries from is looking to lower their profit guidance, that means that Tesla probably is not going to make that profit as well, as the electric vehicle collapse is continuing. WeWork is plunging more, almost 50% on Wednesday, another 10% on Thursday, after they decided to go into Chapter 11 bankruptcy. And Danish shipping supplier Maersk, which was founded in 1904, went down by over 50% after they talked about letting go of their workforce, which is the biggest shipping company in the world that I told you about there in the beginning. Shopify soared over 22% after they hit their highest level since May, after they hit a lot better numbers in quarter three thanks to cutting costs, and the revenue also went up by over 25%. And in technology, a breakthrough study in quote-unquote animals infects rats, a completely healthy rat, with human Alzheimer's disease. What they did was they transferred the gut microbiome, the bacteria that's in your stomach, over to a healthy mouse. And I have no idea why they're doing this, why it's a good thing, but that's how it goes. On Monday, Biden enacted a new executive order to reduce, quote unquote, the risks of AI posing to consumers. This is going to be a lot more red tape and bureaucracy. And essentially what they're doing is they're adding regulations to keep the big boys in control rather than allowing people like you and I to create our own AI systems. And in investment news, the GM, General Motors, and the union from the car companies agreed to a agreement to stop the strike that raises the top pay of veteran workers by 33%, ending 6 weeks of a strike. And in international events, the war in Israel is continuing, with Israel going into Gaza. And reports say that China has actually removed Israel from online maps. And Russia launched a massive drone attack early on Friday, hitting critical infrastructure west and south of Ukraine. And an interesting fact this week, a legendary Flatiron building in New York City is going to be converted into residential units now that we have a collapse of the commercial real estate. It's going to take about 3 years. So if you're interested in a new house, go and buy some in the Flatiron building. And archaeologists studying an ancient site in the North Sea said that they found a feat of engineering nearly 1,000 years older than the pyramids in Egypt. The site was built around 3000 BC, and I highly recommend that you guys watch the series from Graham Hancock on Netflix called Ancient Apocalypse. Goes through a lot of this stuff that I think Graham Hancock is actually correct. That's your news for this week, guys. Let me know if you guys have any questions. Don't forget to subscribe, and remember, the preppers were right.